If you knew who started Bitcoin and you had Bitcoin, you couldn't sleep at night. I know, 100%. And when the real founder of Bitcoin comes out, it is my humble opinion, and there's nothing humble about me, Bitcoin will go to zero.
Apparently there's these bears and these Riddlers.
This has been a long battle. How much certainty does this provide? Is the entire case over?
So this provides a lot of certainty for Ripple. We won on the key parts of the case in the summer of 23. The Gensler SEC was really trying to bully and continue lawfare, filing lawsuits and lawsuits and lawsuits against crypto companies.
That's what it's designed to do. But we're being massively slowed down by regulatory molasses.
4 years, we spent over $150 million defending that case. Judge Torres made a ruling that XRP in and of itself was not a security. That's almost a verbatim quote. And what they've now agreed is they're going to drop that appeal. There'll be a crypto stockpile representing other cryptos, and I would expect that will include XRP. Look, at the end of the day, I think the stark contrast is in the Biden administration, we couldn't get a meeting with people at the White House. Now we're welcomed into the White House.
Now this story goes much deeper than most people think, because what I'm about to share with you in this video will completely change the way that you think about XRP, Bitcoin, and the entire crypto market. And if you're watching this video in 2026, the clues that we're going to uncover over the next few minutes that tie directly to Ripple, XRP, Donald Trump in the White House, the Bearable Guy 123, origins of Bitcoin, the real meaning behind the number 589 that has been riddled about, and what this has to do with movies like Spaceballs, David Schwartz, secret documents that were found in Nikola Tesla's lab that have to do with time travel, and a book written by Ingersoll Lockwood titled Barron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey.
My name is Barron, and I am not from your time.
And if you think you have a clue what's going on, you have absolutely no idea.
Clearly not saying.
How connected Donald Trump is to the JFK assassinations and even being related to JFK. So we're diving deep in today's video, and we've uncovered some monumental connections here to Elon Musk, his plan, or as some people would say, prophecy to colonize Mars, and what Elon Musk has been riddling about over the past few years, from Caecus Maximus to now terms like barely legal, and what we discovered on the Gematria calculator will absolutely blow your mind. So this will most likely be my last XRP video of the year, and it's gonna be my best one yet. So as always, comment 777 if you're feeling blessed, if you're feeling bullish, and if you're gonna become the first millionaire in your family tree in 2026, confirm it by tapping the subscribe button. Let's run it.
According to the conspiracy theory, Donald Trump is related to the Kennedy family. Here's how. George Patton is the grandson of Abraham Lincoln. Benito Mussolini is George Patton's brother. Joseph Kennedy, who's the older brother of John F. Kennedy, who we thought died in World War II, actually didn't, but he went into hiding and had a son who happens to be General Michael Flynn, which makes Flynn first cousins to John F. Kennedy Jr. And where is Trump in this nutty family tree? Donald Trump is, get this, the biological son of General Patton, which makes Trump the first cousin of JFK Jr., which explains why Donald Trump actually accused Senator Ted Cruz's father of being friends with JFK's killer. He was avenging the death of his uncle. But I'm not done. The same people who believe all of this nonsense also believe that this past week, at the same time and place where President John F. Kennedy was killed, his late son, JFK Jr., would reveal himself as alive and well. And he would proclaim that he was re-entering society as Donald Trump's running mate in the 2024 presidential election. Hundreds of people actually showed up in Dallas to witness the second coming of JFK Jr. for the second running of Donald J. Trump. They came fully prepared. They had shirts and signs that read Trump Kennedy 2024. Now, needless to say, neither JFK Jr. nor his father showed up to this party, but the tenacious group of critical thinkers did not give up. Some members of the group came to the logical epiphany that John must be disguised as Keith Richards, the Rolling Stones guitarist. And as interesting as that may be to us Keith Richards fans, I'm actually not going to go down that rabbit.
But in the rest of this video, we are going to go down that rabbit hole because what's been happening has been too strange to just call a coincidence. You know, it all started with the SEC suing Ripple.
We won on the key parts of the case in the summer of 23. Judge Torres made a ruling that XRP in and of itself was not a security. That's almost a verbatim quote. So we now are in the driver's seat to determine how we want to proceed. 4 years, we spent over $150 million defending that case. Not just for Ripple, but for the whole industry. I think it was really important that this SEC, the Gensler SEC, was really trying to bully and continue lawfare, filing lawsuits and lawsuits and lawsuits against crypto companies. That's over now, and I think that's great for the U.S. crypto industry and frankly great for crypto at large.
Now, before we dive any further, I want to let you guys know that we did just open the doors for a 7-day free trial of Altcoin Pro, and it's going to end January 1st. So if you're watching this video before January 1st, click the link in the description below. Get started for free. Simply create your account. You'll get access to our private community with hundreds of other members. Over 100 plus expert curated classes designed to teach you everything about crypto that you need to know. Live weekly coaching calls. You can connect with members all around the world. And this free trial is for a limited time only. It closes January 1st, so don't wait. If you've watched my other conspiracy videos on the channel talking about Ripple XRP and the rest of the crypto market, but you want to dive even deeper into the crypto market to actually learn how to earn passive income on your crypto, then Altcoin Pro is the place to do it. So check that out. I know you're going to love it, but let's dive into the details of this video because in this clip right here that I played, Dan's saying that Bitcoin will go to zero.
Zero.
Now I take everything that everyone says with a grain of salt, as I encourage you to take what I say throughout the course of this video with a grain of salt. But it's very interesting how back in November, the newly released Epstein emails showed that he funded Bitcoin's core development. And in these leaked emails saying the way that Bitcoin is organized currently is that there are 5 core developers and around 100 contributors to the core code. They decide what changes are made to the core code. And what's interesting is the Epstein files on the Department of Justice website allow you to highlight the redacted text, copy it, and paste it into another document, which reveals what they had hidden all along. And you can press Ctrl+F to search for the word Trump with the space to see his name appearing more than 600 times. Now, the biggest question this creates in people's mind is if this is true, why hasn't any major outlet independently verified it yet?
I'm not involved. I never went to his island, fortunately. A lot of people did, but fortunately, I was not one of them.
So Epstein's connection to Bitcoin and Donald Trump's statements recently about Epstein have raised more questions than answers. So what does he know? What does Dan Pena know? And if Bitcoin is really connected to Epstein, then what does this have to do with XRP and everything else that I'm going to discuss in this video? Well, let's keep digging. Because just recently, a couple days ago, the White House official X page posted this, basically showing Donald Trump's accomplishments on the left and then him sitting in a chair next to a Christmas tree with presents beneath it, with a fireplace and stockings. And it very closely resembles the BEARABLE Guy's image that was posted on December 24th of 2021, which was the clip that you saw at the beginning of this video, animating from the White House to the Ferris wheel, all the way to the bear, that I've talked about in previous videos, decoding what's happening here out the window, and talking about the gavel with the triskelion on it, and this, what looks like a clock here, that's not actually a clock, that is actually an ancient device called the Antikythera mechanism, that looks like this. And if you didn't watch my previous video, I showed you how when you overlay these images right on top of each other, then you flip it upside down, that's exactly what it is. And how strange these clues really get when you enter in the words into the Gematria calculator. Now, for those of you that don't know, Gematria is a system of assigning numerical values to letters, primarily used in Jewish mysticism to find deeper hidden meanings in religious texts by calculating the numeric sum of words or phrases. And before you just write this off as something that's just kooky or a conspiracy theory, you need to see this. For example, if you go to the Gematria calculator and you type in a word like the Antikythera mechanism, it comes up in Hebrew Gematria as the number 970. And so you'll see Jewish, English, and simple numbers here. And what's interesting is that it's the exact same number as interoperability is what Brad Garlinghouse has said over and over and over again that's happening to the crypto market. It also comes up as President of the United States, Trump. Something big is coming. Buckle up, Buttercup. Baron Trump. The one big beautiful bill. And if you just look up the word Antikythera, it comes up as XRP adoption, XRP moontime, Phoenix coin, astrology, stronghold, triskelion, no coincidences. Even saying JFK Jr. is alive here. And if you guys look up the history on this device, it's absolutely insane. So I find it pretty interesting that the BEARABLE Guy put it on the fireplace there, alongside a lot of other clues that have been decoded over the years. inside the pictures on this account's page. Now, I'm not going to get into too much detail in this video about these other pictures here, because there is a lot to decode. And I've talked about them in previous videos that you can find on the channel when you subscribe. But one of the most important riddles out there is the number 589, because if you search it on the Gematria calculator, in Jewish Gematria, it comes up as the exact same number as Donald Trump, ISO XRP, Ripple the Bull, A Storm is Coming, and it even shows up as Thomas Anderson, which, as you already know, is the name of Neo in the Matrix on his name tag right here, when he worked for a company called Metacortex. And it's interesting how the X is really the XRP logo turned sideways. But what's even more interesting is Metacortex comes up as Ripple XRP, XRP Ripple, in Jewish Gematria as well, and Thomas Anderson comes up as 589. Now, if you still think this is just a coincidence, you're not going to believe this, because on the name tag right here, you can see this was issued in 1996, the same exact year that this document was released called How to Make a Mint, the Cryptography of Anonymous Electronic Cash. You've seen this before. The same document that was created by the NSA, the National Security Agency, the Office of Information Security Research and Technology here, in the cryptology division, years before Bitcoin was ever even created. And if you scroll all the way down to the reference, you'll see a guy by the name of Tatsuaki Okamoto, which sounds similar to Satoshi Nakamoto. But what's strange here is if you look his name up, it comes up as the same as Keanu Charles Reeves, the guy who played Thomas Anderson, or Neo, in the Matrix. And if you spell Neo backwards, it's the one, which, as you already know, the whole movie is about being the chosen one here, but the deeper meaning of the Matrix is insane. Also, there was a movie a few years before that document was released by the NSA. In a 1992 movie called Sneakers, there's a scene where they hack into the Federal Reserve transfer node, showing XRP as the International Telelink Access.
Federal Reserve transfer node, Culpeper, Virginia.
Catch your good luck.
900 billion a day goes through there.
Punch it in.
It's encrypted. See?
Look at this, boys. Anybody want to shut down the Federal Reserve?
So there's no way that was a coincidence. That was 1992. Hollywood shows things to the masses as predictive programming before it happened. So the fact that he said want to shut down the Federal Reserve is too ironic. But what's even more ironic is not that the NSA wrote this document talking about cryptography, the anonymous electronic cash. It's that this guy right here, everyone knows him as David Schwartz, the CTO of Ripple, or Joel Katz on Twitter, who's the key architect of the XRP ledger. His career is grounded in cryptography, specifically working with who? The National Security Agency, where he worked on classified projects. So if you've been wondering who created Bitcoin, well, the fact that there's 5 core developers and 100 contributors to the core code, David Schwartz pretty much checks all those boxes. Now, before people ever knew about blockchain, before they ever knew about Bitcoin, Schwartz designed cloud storage systems using encryption and created secure ways to send messages. And before XRP ever came about, if you haven't heard this clip yet from Brad Garlinghouse, listen to this.
I will correct one thing right out of the gates. Ripple did not actually issue XRP. The XRP ledger is an open source, decentralized technology, not dissimilar than Bitcoin. And some of the creators of the XRP ledger actually had been early engineers that worked on Bitcoin. And they saw some of the scalability problems that Bitcoin was likely to have, the speed, both from an energy consumption, cost, some of the other problems. And they wanted to build a better digital asset to solve some of these problems.
So not only does Ripple's CTO have ties to Bitcoin and the NSA, but Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, has a very interesting background as well, where he held executive roles at AOL and Yahoo. And in this video right here, when he used to work for AOL, he gives you a tour of their office. And when he gets to this part right here, listen to what he said.
Pretty cool event we did here in Palo Alto last Thursday. We invited a bunch of media in from across really the tech industry, as well as some key partners, to talk about what a different company AOL is today. And instead of doing the standard kind of walking people through a PowerPoint deck, we decided to tell our story on whiteboards. The Thing Labs, Brisley joining the team here, our work on Phoenix, which continues to be in kind of alpha/beta, and we then, talking about the about.me.
So he quickly goes, and then moves on because he knows he's not supposed to talk about it. Now, why is there a bear right next to the Phoenix? And why is it that when you search the word the Phoenix on the Gematria calculator, it comes up as Donald Trump, Metacortex from the Matrix, Simpsons, which, as you already know, they predict a lot of stuff. And if you take off the word the and you just search Phoenix, it's the same Jewish Gematria number as the Ripple effect. which over the years we've heard subconsciously planted into our minds by major mainstream news stations.
Next tonight, the economic ripple effect.
So I think it has ripple effects.
The ripple effect. Well, fears around regional banks are having ripple effects across the markets, and there's a lot more going on too. So here are the 3 things you need to know today.
And it's the same English gematria number as Satoshi, President of the United States, who is Q, buckle up, final phase. Now, before you think I'm just spreading conspiracy theories or just making stuff up, listen to this.
All right, I want to talk about time travel, the secret technology. Yes, the White House admitting this week, on the record, by the way, that we possess the technology to manipulate time and space.
Now, Redacted is a very big channel, and the word the Phoenix is super important because on The Economist in 1988, it said get ready for a world currency with the Phoenix on the cover. And the fact that Brad Garlinghouse is showing a Phoenix and a bear, even though the name says Brizzly, could there be some symbology behind these bears and the Bearable Guy 123 that a lot of people have said is David Schwartz behind this account? Well, here's where it gets even crazier. Maybe you've seen the movie Spaceballs. It's a parody movie of Star Wars. But I thought this was really interesting because throughout the entire movie, they talk about this thing called the Schwartz, which is basically the parody of the Force. But listen to this.
But you're the one. Yes, I am the keeper of a greater magic. Power known throughout the universe as the Force? No, the Schwartz. The Schwartz. Yes, the Schwartz.
Now, an interesting side note here, Spaceballs was written in 1987 by Mel Brooks, who is Jewish. And this movie has a lot of Yiddish humor, with phrases like, may the Schwartz be with you, playing on Jewish naming conventions and innuendos for Yiddish-inflected comedy here. And you know how everyone in the XRP community jokes about flipping the switch? Well, in the movie Spaceballs, they literally used the Schwartz to flip the switch.
It's working.
And what do you know? If you look up the word flip the switch, it comes up as David Schwartz. Now, it also comes up as retard Maxine here. So if you're a retard, welcome to the club. I'm retarded too. So throughout the rest of this video, we're releasing the Kraken here. And as always, this is not financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. This is God's secret plan here, and also something to watch until the major XRP bull run, almost like a lotto or a jackpot here, kind of like a perfect storm. So as we give you a glimpse through the secret window here, before they flip the switch using the Schwartz, you need to know this. Not only does David Schwartz come up, but when you look up the Schwartz, it comes up as the Great Reset, Drain the Swamp, Galactic Alignment, Let Freedom Ring, Jesus is Lord, the Christ Key, Fifth Dimension. So what seemingly is a movie produced to be just a parody of Star Wars has a much deeper meaning. Now this is where things get really strange here, because a few years ago the Bearable Guy posted 589 and everyone thought it was a price target for XRP, but the truth goes much deeper than everyone knows. So why did Bearable Guy post this number in the first place? And how is COBALT connected to Ripple's algorithm? So back in 2017, Bearable Guy here posted this on Reddit saying 589, end of year 2018. Now everyone thought that was supposed to be a price target, but of course that didn't happen. XRP did explode in price, but it didn't make it anywhere close to $589. Now what's interesting about this is I posted this on Twitter, which you guys can follow me at RunLifeNick. I was driving on the freeway, thinking about what the end of the year for XRP will look like, and this car drove by me at the exact same time that I was thinking this, and the license plate said 589, end of year, EOY. So could that be a sign? I think the universe speaks in mysterious ways. Now, do I take that as a price target for XRP? Absolutely not. 589 is the code for what's being prepared here. 589 is the COMEX rule. 589 is Nostro accounts liberated. Then in 2018, when everyone was waiting and debating each other about the price of XRP going to $589, Ripple put out a document about a technology called COBALT, a new consensus algorithm for the XRP ledger. And if you go to the xrpledger.org here, you can see under the consensus research, they introduced an atomic broadcast algorithm called COBALT that allowed more flexibility in the consensus algorithm and its safety and liveness properties. And COBALT makes the network asynchronous, decentralized, and fault resistant. And if you look up the periodic table of elements, many of you guys remember this from your science class here. Well, how weird is it that the atomic mass of COBALT is 58.9? And on Bearable Guy's image, COBALT was written right next to Nostro in 589. Now in Alchemy, COBALT's name comes from the German kobold, which is a goblin spirit. It was primarily used for creating brilliant blue pigments and was linked to transformative blue colors symbolizing spirit, purity, and the heavens. Now very interesting how Ripple's color is blue. And even more interesting how if you look up the word alchemy on the gematria calculator, it comes up as the same English numbers as water, Well, David Schwartz once said, all of the elements are now taken. Google has earth, Apple has air, Amazon has fire, and Ripple has water. If you look at Google's stock price back in the early 2000s compared to where it is today, 20 years later, over $300, and you look at Apple's stock price over $272, and Amazon's stock price over $232, and then you look at XRP's price at $1.85, I think it's very clear what's going to happen over the next 20 years. Now, before you think I'm just peddling hopium here, I want you to listen to this. The number 589 is not a price. It's their plan for what's coming next. Now, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, they have Rule 589 that governs special price fluctuation limits and temporary trading halts primarily for primary metal futures like gold and silver, designed to curb extreme volatility by pausing trading for a few seconds when prices rapidly hit predefined limits during the trading day, especially around the final settlement period to ensure orderly price discovery and prevent manipulation on the CME Group exchanges. Now, I'm not making this up, guys. You can go to their official websites and check this out. It says Rule 589. Now, there's also no coincidence why Bitcoin has been referred to as digital gold, but if you take silver, which is the shiny metallic gray silver color, and you look at molten silver, it's pretty much the same bright reflective liquid metal with cool white silvery tones. Now, as you already know, the word alchemy is not just something to put into the Gematria calculator. It's an ancient proto-scientific tradition that's blending philosophy, spirituality, and early chemistry that laid the groundwork for modern chemistry. It involves transforming different substances. So for example, using alchemy, there's a key process called electrochemical anodizing, or more precisely controlled sulfide oxidation of silver. So here's how it works, where it involves dissolving sulfur in water and then submerging clean silver. And then by applying a low voltage of about 3 volts from a battery, this forces controlled oxidation, building a thin silver sulfide film. Now, the film's thickness creates an interference color via light refraction, and for a short duration, it starts out as yellow gold, then if you hold it for longer, it goes to purple, then to blue. Now, not only can this process turn silver blue, but when you melt down gold, it's orange. So could this be why Ripple's name is based around water, and why XRP could be the one? So with rule number 589 for metal futures that states if there's no sellers of physical gold, the exchange automatically raises the price by $100 4 times in a row, after which the exchange closes until the next day, and so on every single day. And this is the moment that paper gold can't pretend to be real, and the system of old obligations completely falls apart. Now, if we relate this to finance, where banks are owing different banks, countries owe different countries, everything is held together by IOUs or promises. And finally, the moment of final settlement where the old system completely crumbles, the new one will open on digital rails. And this is why Ripple wants to position XRP as the bridge between all currencies. And if you look on Bearable Guy's image here, you can also see COMEX written next to COBALT in 589. And this is directly from the CME Group. Now, another word on the image is Nostro, which are correspondent bank accounts. So basically, when a European bank transfers over to Asia, they use Nostro and Vostro accounts. The problem there of using that as intermediaries is trillions of dollars are frozen, causing a massive delay in transfers that take 3 to 5 days. And XRP solves this in 3 seconds without needing different intermediaries there. Now, as you already know, David Schwartz worked for the NSA, then worked for Ripple, but there was also a guy by the name of Arthur Britto. Now, no one's ever seen Arthur Britto. There's no photos of the guy. All there is this South Park image here on Twitter of him joining in 2011. Now, he posted on June 23rd of 2025 at 12:01 p.m., the day that XRP pretty much bottomed out and went from $1.97 upwards of $3.67. So what did he know? And who is Arthur Britto? Well, in 2014, him alongside David Schwartz introduced the Ripple protocol for their consensus algorithm behind the XRP ledger. And not only did Arthur Britto post pretty much right when XRP bottomed out and then exploded, but 5,890 days since May of 2009, which is the exact same day that an announcement was made about Bitcoin on Reddit, marking one of the earliest instances of Bitcoin being discussed publicly outside of the cryptography mailing list. So could this mysterious person behind this Arthur Britto account be another one of the core developers that worked on Bitcoin mentioned in the Epstein emails? Now, here's where this video takes a wild turn. Back in the late 1800s, specifically in 1893, a book was written by Ingersoll Lockwood called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey. Now, 50 years before Tesla's death, Ingersoll Lockwood wrote 2 novels. And at the time, they seemed like fiction novels that you would read when you want to go to the library and discover some fantasy world. But more than a century later on social media, this went viral, and you've probably seen it in my previous videos. But in 1893, this book that came out talking about Baron Trump's marvelous underground journey. The story follows Baron Trump, who inherited a manuscript. It's written by a guy named Don, who's his mentor, and it basically gives him a map where he takes that map, departs from Castle Trump, journeys all the way across Russia, and descends into underground worlds. And along his journey, he meets a lot of strange people, discovers different portals between dimensions, and those portals allow him to time travel. And then a few years later, Ingersoll Lockwood put out another book called The Last President. And the start of the book described New York in chaos after a popular outsider wins the presidency. Now, does that sound familiar to Donald Trump's story? And protesters flood Fifth Avenue in New York City. Now, here's what's even more interesting. If you look up Trump Tower in New York City, well, it's on Fifth Avenue. I can't make this stuff up, guys. So the parallels here are uncanny. It is absolutely insane. How the stories about Baron Trump, Donald Trump's son, an outsider becoming president, Trump Tower being located on 5th Street. And in April of 2025, a man delivered a speech titled The Golden Age of American Innovation at the Endless Frontiers Retreat in Austin, Texas. And this was posted on the White House website. And in this document right here, he talks about discoveries that will bend time and space. So is that just a metaphor? Is Ingersoll's books just a bunch of fiction? Or is this telling us something else? Stories about the future written from a man over 100 years ago. And Lockwood wasn't a prophet here, he was a lawyer. His books gathered dust for over a century here. And now that they're coming back in a digital age here, the coincidence have created a tsunami all over social media. So what if Lockwood didn't just create Baron Trump in his mind? Well, what if Donald Trump's son Baron actually visited him using time travel technology? Now I know that sounds insane, but here's where the story gets even crazier. On January 7th, 1943, the inventor Nikola Tesla was discovered dead in his hotel. Tesla even claimed that during his high voltage experiments, he sometimes saw the past, the present, and the future, all unfolding right in front of his eyes. And most people just dismissed him as crazy, like everyone does to new inventors. Imagine when they talked about planes, cell phones, technology. I mean, go back to cavemen times. If a caveman has never seen fire and another caveman comes up to him with a burning stick, he's gonna look at him like he's crazy. And the day that Tesla died, federal agents raided his room. And they seized a bunch of documents, notebooks, diagrams, you name it, basically his inventions. And in those documents, there were all sorts of inventions like death rays, limitless energy devices, even devices that could bend time and space itself. Just like on the official White House website for the Golden Age of American Innovation speech, he talked about discoveries that will bend time and space. Well, I bet you couldn't guess the one man that was called to review these documents. John G. Trump, who was an MIT professor, expert in high voltage physics, and uncle of the boy who would one day become the president of the United States. And at first, Don Trump dismissed the work. He basically said everything Tesla was working on was speculative. And of course, because any genius that makes inventions, they have to speculate first, just like we're speculating in this video, before the truth finally comes out. He called Tesla brilliant, but also impractical. But rather than just closing the door here and leaving those documents locked away, this is where a lot of people have speculated that he took those documents and he kept them.
Tell me, boy, you speak of danger. Yes?
Mr. Tesla, the timeline is breaking. They will bury your work, but one of your own will keep it alive.
One of my own?
Who's there? What do you want?
Guard them well, John. The future is written within those papers.
They're speculation, visions, nonsense. Who are you?
John, that's not nonsense, it's a map.
In the official record, John Trump said there was nothing to be found.
We just need to know the truth, John. Was he onto something or not?
But what if him dismissing those documents was one of the biggest chess moves that now Donald Trump is using to achieve everything that he's achieved thus far? What if the book from Ingersoll Lockwood talking about Baron Trump's marvelous adventures were from this time travel technology giving him these stories to ensure that Tesla's technology was carried forward until the future was ready to realize it? Now, in the tail end of World War II, there was a guy by the name of Wernher von Braun. He was the creator of the V-2 rocket that hit London. And as Germany fell, the Allies were hunting down the secrets. Russia and America were looking for von Braun to add to their team through what was called Operation Paperclip. And von Braun was brought to America, much like a lot of other high-ranking military officials. And in America, he started a new life, not for war, but for exploration, specifically space. He was the guy who designed the Saturn V rocket. But before that, in 1948, he wrote something very specific. Much like Ingersoll Lockwood's novel, which seemed like science fiction, he wrote a novel called Project Mars. And this was set in the 1980s. The novel described the first human mission to Mars and its encounter with Martians that lived on the planet. Now, while he was stationed in the U.S. Army rocket facility in Fort Bliss in New Mexico, in the early 1950s, the Department of Defense felt that his visions of space travel were too futuristic, and he submitted the English manuscript to 18 American publishers, but it was rejected by all of them. And in this document, he basically described everything from the colonization of Mars to living on Mars and the technology that was used. But one specific section of the novel stands out across everything else. He wrote that the leader on Mars would not be called a king, would not be called the president, but would be referred to as the Elon. Now, as you already know, Elon Musk's company SpaceX is primarily focused on expansion to colonize Mars. And very similar to how Elon Musk and his companies have been attacked, like how Brad Garlinghouse and Ripple has been attacked by the SEC.
Starship is capable of building a city on Mars and a city on the moon. That's what it's designed to do. But we're being massively slowed down by regulatory molasses.
They use the term regulatory molasses. Now, the Bearable Guy made this post in 2019 showing a can of regulatory molasses here, which is a very specific phrase that I've never heard anyone share before, falling off of a shelf with a little bear poking out the side here. Now, what's even more interesting here is a year ago, Elon Musk posted this saying Kecius Maximus, which was the name of his character in a popular game called Path of Exile. And I made a video sharing this where if you look up Kecius Maximus on the Gematria calculator, it comes up as X marks the spot, World War III, Arthur Britto, wealth transfer, I am the trump card. And just a few days ago, he created a new character name called Barely Legal, which is none other than a bear. Which is just too strange that Bearable Guy is a bear, he chooses a bear character. When you look up Barely Legal on Gematria calculator, in Jewish Gematria, it comes up as the same number as the word treasure and XRP ledger. Not only that, but it comes up as the same English Gematria number as Joel Katz. And also, time machine. The same Joel Katz that is David Schwartz on Twitter. And if you think time travel is crazy, well, look at this.
It's a trophy of the future.
Yeah.
It represents the past, the future, everything, the present.
And this will be at the White House for a little while.
Yes.
So if anybody needs a picture or anything, you can take
So,
it, but this is...
If you like it, Mr. President, it can stay here. Just on the 13th of July, you should take it with me.
Let's leave it here.
To the stadium to give it to the winners. They can take a picture, then we bring it back here after the picture.
Let's do that. We'll leave it here. We'll have it in the White House quite a bit.
Excellent.
It travels a little bit also, but I
Yeah.
appreciate it. That's good. And I know this can definitely stay, right?
So could it be that Donald Trump is using time travel technology? And these images like this right here posted from the White House, that's very similar to the post that was made by Bearable Guy in front of the fireplace a few years ago, is all connected to XRP, the Phoenix, Elon Musk, the man who declared that his destiny was to colonize Mars. Is this just a coincidence, or is this prophecy? Did von Braun, the man who created science fiction novels about colonizing Mars, see something so declassified that the only way of him staying mentally sane was to turn it into a science fiction novel, so he didn't get called a lunatic by trying to tell everyone that it was real? Was the Elon just a name taken out of his imagination in storytelling, or the truth about the future? Because you know that Elon Musk is not a science fiction character, he's real. In this book written back in the 1900s, and even Ingersoll Lockwood's book written in the late 1800s, talking about time travel and the last president. So the real question remains, did Elon Musk choose this path to colonize Mars, to start SpaceX, Tesla, to buy Twitter, turn it into X, to work on an everything payment app like WeChat over in China? A boy named Barron in 1893. An inventor creating the most futuristic technology, a custodian of secrets, a rocket architect in 1948, an entrepreneur and one of the wealthiest men of our time, each separated by multiple decades. Every single person connected in ways that's too odd to just call a coincidence and ignore. So is this really just a coincidence? Is it choreography? Or is it more of a divine destiny of God that's just showing itself through numerical values like gematria in seemingly random situations that might not be planned by human beings, but orchestrated by the divine? And as Nikola Tesla once said,
The present and the future are one.
So what if Tesla was right? What if these predictions aren't random? What if everything that we've been talking about on this channel for the past few years is more than just a conspiracy theory? Well, I'll let you come to your own conclusion, because only time will tell. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe for more, share this with a friend who you think would appreciate this, and I will see you on the next video, and I also will see you at the top. Make sure you guys check out the links in the description below to join our community. If you like this video, I know you're gonna absolutely love what you're gonna learn through the links in the description below. As always, you know what to do. Stay bullish.